to arrest and detain anyone suspected of entering the United States illegally.
We will keep fighting, regardless of what happens in the court, because we all have a collective responsibility.
Promises from Governor Greg Abbott to continue efforts at the border even without Senate Bill 4 in place.
The Texas government has been in a heated battle with the Biden administration over the state's right to protect itself and curb illegal immigration. For months, it seemed like the Lone Star State was facing strong opposition at every turn. But now, it looks like there's been a major breakthrough. A new bill has been passed that will definitely put Texas in a strong position to protect itself. So what exactly has happened, and what does this mean for the U.S.? Join us as we discuss how the Texas governor just made a huge change to legislation. For a while now, Texas has been at odds with the federal government over the issue of illegal immigration. The state has long been a hotspot for illegal border crossings, and Governor Greg Abbott has been vocal about his commitment to securing the border and protecting Texans from the dangers associated with illegal immigration. The Biden administration, however, has taken a different approach, implementing policies that many in Texas feel have only exacerbated the problem. This clash of ideologies has led to a tense standoff between the state and federal government, with neither side willing to back down. But now it seems that Texas has scored a major victory. So there's this new bill making waves in the Senate, and it's got a pretty interesting name, the Laken-Riley Act. Basically, it's about cracking down on undocumented immigrants who are accused of theft or burglary. So here's the deal. Senator Katie Britt of Alabama and Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina are the masterminds behind this bill, and they're not messing around. They want federal immigration authorities to get their act together and start nabbing these undocumented folks who are allegedly up to no good. The Laken-Riley Act is like the Senate version of a similar bill that was introduced in the House by Georgia GOP Representative Mike Collins. It's all about getting immigration and customs enforcement to step up and take action against individuals who are living in the U.S. without proper documentation and getting involved in shady stuff like theft, burglary, larceny, or shoplifting. And it doesn't stop there. If these folks are found guilty, the bill says they've got to be held in detention until they're kicked out of the country. The idea is to stop them from pulling the same stunts or getting involved in even more serious criminal activities. But wait, there's more. The Laken-Riley Act also wants to give states the power to go after federal officials who aren't doing their job when it comes to enforcing immigration laws or who are breaking the rules themselves. The goal is to make sure everyone plays by the same set of rules and to keep our communities safe and sound. Now, you might be wondering why this bill is named after someone. Well, it's all in memory of Laken-Riley, a young nursing student who tragically lost her life on the University of Georgia campus. See, she was allegedly murdered by Jose Antonio Ibarra, an undocumented immigrant from Venezuela who managed to dodge ICE despite being picked up in New York before the terrible incident. Prior to facing charges of felony murder, Jose Antonio Ibarra's troubling history included an arrest in New York for endangering a child, as well as a citation in Georgia for misdemeanor shoplifting in October 2023, alongside his brother Diego Ibarra, as reported by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. In response to the tragic circumstances surrounding Laken-Riley's untimely death, Senator Katie Britt emphasized the critical need for decisive action to address the repercussions of lax immigration policies. She underscored the preventable nature of Riley's murder, attributing it to the consequences of the Biden administration's open border approach. Britt expressed her conviction that enacting this pragmatic legislation would ensure that immigration and customs enforcement detains and expels criminal undocumented individuals, thereby averting similar heart-wrenching tragedies that devastate American families. Praising the initiative shown by Representative Mike Collins and Senator Ted Budd in championing this cause, Senator Britt highlighted the urgency of advancing the Laken-Riley Act in the Senate. She called upon Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to swiftly bring this crucial bill to the Senate floor for consideration, emphasizing the imperative of safeguarding communities from the perils posed by criminal elements exploiting lenient immigration policies. Echoing these sentiments, Senator Butt emphasized the significance of empowering states to shield their residents from the adverse effects of the administration's open border stance. By advocating for legal recourse through federal courts, Budd emphasized the importance of upholding law and order at the state level and curbing the detrimental impacts of unchecked migration. Collaborating with Senator Britt on introducing the state version of the Laken-Riley Act, Senator Budd reinforced the need for proactive measures to counteract the systemic vulnerabilities stemming from ineffective border control policies. Fortunately, there was good news on Thursday, March 14th, as the House of Representatives decisively passed the pivotal Laken-Riley Act, marking a significant milestone in the ongoing legislative efforts to enhance immigration enforcement measures. The vote was a solid 251 to 170, which means there was some serious bipartisan support for this thing. Representative Mike Collins wasted no time in pushing the Senate to get on board with the bill. He's all about making sure that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, have the tools they need to nab and kick out criminal, undocumented folks before they cause more trouble. But, of course, it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. There was a pretty clear split among party lines during the voting. Every single Republican said, heck yes, to the bill, while all 170 nope votes came from the Democratic side. However, it's worth noting that 37 Democrats actually crossed over and joined forces with the Republicans on this one. It's a pretty big deal when politicians can put aside their party differences for the sake of public safety and law enforcement. After the vote, things got pretty heated on social media. The House Judiciary GOP didn't hold back in calling out the Democrats for apparently not caring about public safety. They even called out Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, basically asking him where he stands on the whole Laken-Riley Act situation. It's clear that this bill is stirring up some serious political drama. During the debate in the House, Representative Jerry Nadler from New York went off on the bill, accusing the Republicans of demonizing immigrants. He sees it just as another political move to make a big fuss about immigration for their own gain. It's pretty obvious that there are some deep-seated differences when it comes to immigration policy in the world of politics. The proposed bill not only mandates ICE to issue a detainer for illegal aliens accused of theft or burglary, but also empowers individual states to take legal action against the federal government if any immigration-related actions cause harm to the state or its residents. According to a press release introducing the legislation, states would be granted the authority to file lawsuits against the federal government seeking injunctive relief in cases where immigration-related actions, such as parole or violations of detention requirements, have detrimental effects on the states or its citizens. This provision aims to provide states with a legal mechanism to compel the federal government to address specific shortcomings concerning border security. During the recent debate on the bill in Washington on Thursday, Nadler, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, expressed his concerns. He criticized the majority for what he perceived as exploiting a tragic loss for political gain instead of uniting in mourning over Laken's unfortunate death. Nadler further argued that instead of handling this tragic incident with sensitivity and care, Republicans seem to have hastily assembled provisions from unrelated bills to target and blame immigrants solely for gaining political advantage in an election year. He emphasized that this approach lacked seriousness and failed to address the real issues at the border. One person that's certainly happy with this bill is former President Donald Trump. He met with the family of Laken-Riley backstage before speaking at a rally in Georgia. In fact, he had some heartfelt words to share about a young woman named Laken-Riley whose tragic story has been linked to the bill. During a rally in Georgia, Trump took a moment to speak about Laken and her family. He mentioned meeting her mother and family backstage and how they described Laken as the best student, the best nurse to be, and the brightest light in every room. It's clear that Laken meant the world to her loved ones, and their loss is truly heartbreaking. But what really caught attention was Trump's take on the situation. He placed the blame for Laken's death squarely on President Biden, citing a policy that grants immunity from deportation to illegal immigrants who enter the United States. According to Trump, this policy allowed the individual responsible for Laken's death to be released immediately upon arrival at the border. In addition to the mentioned bill, the state of Texas is currently considering the passage of legislation called SB 4. This proposed law aims to grant Texas law enforcement authorities the ability to halt, apprehend, and detain migrants based on fresh, state-level charges related to illegal entry. Furthermore, SB 4 proposes to authorize state judges to issue quasi-deportation decrees against individuals suspected of violating the law, although the practical implementation of this provision remains uncertain. Under the provisions of SB 4, also known as SB 4, any migrant observed by law enforcement crossing the Rio Grande could face arrest and prosecution in state court for a misdemeanor upon their initial offense. Subsequent violations would elevate the charge to a felony. Following an arrest, migrants could potentially be compelled through the legal process to return to Mexico or face prosecution if they refuse to comply. Texas legislators have indicated that SB 4 is crafted to closely align with existing federal laws that prohibit illegal entry. Essentially, this new law empowers state law enforcement officers across Texas to undertake duties that were traditionally carried out by the U.S. Border Patrol. Also, SB 4 allows for the prosecution of migrants for this new offense for up to 2 years after their entry into Texas, expanding the window for legal actions against individuals who have crossed into the state unlawfully. The enforcement of this law is scheduled to commence sometime in March of 2024, although this timeline may be subject to change depending on the resolution of one or more legal disputes, the first of which was initiated shortly after Abbott's official ceremony. Prior to its enactment, SB 4 faced significant opposition from Democratic legislatures, the Mexican government, and various advocacy groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union, which is representing civil rights organizations in a lawsuit contesting the law. The legal challenge, lodged in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas, asserts that the state is attempting to assert authority over immigration matters typically under federal jurisdiction, thereby stripping individuals within the system of their federally mandated rights and due process, including the right to challenge deportation and seek asylum. When questioned about SB 4, White House spokesperson Angelo Fernandez expressed concern, stating, "This legislation represents an extreme measure that could diminish the safety of communities in Texas. Generally, the responsibility for determining the procedure for removing non-citizens who violate immigration laws lies with the federal government, not individual states." The Justice Department, responsible for initiating any legal actions against Texas, opted not to provide a comment on the matter. The law is also the latest effort by Texas to challenge President Biden, a Democrat, on immigration. At the direction of Abbott, Texas has bused tens of thousands of migrants to Chicago, New York, and other Democrat-led cities. He's also instructed National Guard units and state troopers to repel migrants with razor wire, floating barriers, and trespassing arrests. It looks like Texas is winning, and a lot of Republicans will be happy about it. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments section.